What's up, Cats fans? It's Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and today we're going to go through a really tricky subject right now because it feels like there are so many balls up in the air for the AFL right now. There's so many teams that could potentially make finals. We're going to do a brave thing and try and predict which teams will actually go on to make it. And it's been, as I mentioned, a really tough season up to this particular point. You've seen teams, let's think about our beloved Cats. And if you're neutral watching, they're your beloved Cats as well. They won the first 7 in a row, and then they proceeded to win 1 or 2 out of the next month. It's been an absolute mess for the Geelong Football Club. We look at Sydney, who spent the majority of the season on the ladder, and they've lost 4 out of their last 5, and they just lost by over 100 points to Port Adelaide this weekend. They're a bit of a mess right now. Carlton were up and about. Injuries have hit them. The Pies were done for the season, seemingly, and then they've gotten off the canvas, beaten the Blues this weekend, and are back in contention to go back-to-back. The Lions started the season so poorly, but now they're up and running as well. And so it's been a really, really tricky season if you're trying to win a tipping competition, which I was. That's cooked. But also if you just want to try and get a read on what's going on and have some sort of, informed opinion on who you think might win the finals, and come out the grand final with the trophy at the end of the year, it's a really tough one. So what we're going to do today is have a bit of fun and predict our final 3 rounds. We are on the eve of round 22 at this particular point. Our Cats are in it up to our eyeballs. There's Freo. We've got Freo this week. There's GWS, there's Port, there's Sydney, there's Brisbane, there's the Dogs and Carlton all making up the top 8 at the moment. You've got Essendon, a potentially rejuvenated Essendon, up and about, knocking right on the door. Hawthorn's there, Collingwood's there. The D's aren't technically out of it yet either. There's a lot of competition for really any of those spots in the top, from 5 through to 8 right now, from 3 through to 8 right now. Like, anyone could fall out at this particular point, I think, except Sydney, technically, despite all their recent form. Any team except Sydney. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to share the screen here, and we are going to, as I fix the ratio up, we are going to try. And I'm not going to bother with margins for this, so I understand that percentage could be a variable in the mix for some of these teams here. But considering how unpredictable everything else is anyway, who needs margins at this point? We're going to try to predict the teams that will play finals this year. So we'll begin with round 22. It begins with the Swans versus the Pies. And honestly, you could flip a coin at this particular point. And we might come back afterwards and kind of explore some what ifs. But right now, look, the Swans surely are stinging a little bit off the back of that loss. A lot off the back of that loss. I'm going to go the Swans in this one, and that probably brings to a close the Pies season. In a game between the Lions and the Giants, right now, the Lions are the informed team of the competition. As you can see on the screen here, they're even the flag favourites right now, according to pundits. They'll come out with the chocolates. Blundstone Arena, North v the Eagles, a bit of a coin flip, doesn't impact the finals, but North to get the win there. And I guess interesting on that bottom end, you'll have those 2 teams that are kind of duking it out really for the 2nd or 3rd pick in the draft, now that North got the chocolates against the Tigers this past weekend. A really, really fascinating one here. And again, this will be one of the ones that I mess around with some what-ifs shortly. So right now, I'm just going to tip the home team. I've just got a nagging feeling, though, that we might, and I say we, because let's not forget any neutrals watching, we are a Geelong-based channel here. I've got a nagging feeling we might actually get the job done, but for the sake of this, I'll hedge some bets and tip against the Cats for this particular moment. The Dons to get the job done against the Suns at home, because if the Suns can't win against the Eagles in Perth, then they can't win in state anywhere right now. The Power should get it done, really, based on their current vein of form and what they just did to Sydney, but the Ds are going to be fighting for their life, and who knows what that does to the contest. A really, really fascinating game here. And honestly, the way the Hawks are travelling at the moment and the way that the Blues aren't, I'm going Hawthorn. Then some irrelevant games here, but the Saints get the job done against the Tigers, and then the Dogs will get the points against the Crows here to round out what I believe will occur in round 22 this season. And there's your ladder right now. Sydney, Brisbane, Port, Freo, the Dogs, GWS, Geelong, and the Bombers in 8th spot. Next round. Let's flick back up to the top. Beginning the round, the Bombers versus the Swans. I'm going to believe that based on my previous tip of the Pies getting rolled by the Swans and maybe the Swans getting a bit of momentum going again, that the Swans get the points here. The D's, people's first. No, we'll go the Suns. And again, if I hadn't already rubbed them out in the last game, that will end the D's season. Energy Stadium, Giants, Lions, Power, Cats, Dogs, Hawks, Blues. I feel like that's an easier round potentially to tip. But there are still some messy games in there along the way, especially that game there between the Giants and the Dockers. And what that does for our beloved Cats that are kind of wedged in the middle of them at that particular stage. Moving on to the final round of the season, of which we still do not have times for. And I'm recording this in a vacuum. They may announce it this week. It is insane that 2.5 weeks out from the final round, you have not announced what time these games are on. Crazy to me. Maybe there's some kind of behind closed doors chatter between the clubs and they're just refraining from the public announcement, but this is rubbish. We should not be finding out about when the final game is going to be 2 weeks out. It's not okay. AFL needs to sort that out quick. Anyway, the Bombers season is done with the Lions getting the points there. Carlton stays in it as things stand by beating the Saints. The Cats lock down their final spot and potentially 4th spot by beating the Eagles. Maybe it's a big percentage win that's required to help us leapfrog some teams. We'll explore that again shortly as well. The Hawks to beat the Roos. The Pies to beat the D's in a dead rubber at that point, though. The Suns to beat... who knows? But this could be the Dusty Cup. The Suns maybe in the final round of the season finally get their first win away from home. The Dogs to beat the Giants and lock down 3rd. The Swans, and a really fascinating game for our Cats here. The Power win 3rd. Since it's the final game, I'll at least on the listing here. Since it's the final game, I'll kind of try the what if with it as well. If the Power finish 3rd, Cats finish 5th. If the Dockers get the win, the Cats stay in 5th. Percentages, everyone. If the Cats get up by a big margin, just a hypothetical, let's say we win by 100 points because we may well need to, percentage gets us in. But we need to go and monster them. So anyway, I think that's the standard. I'll leave that there for now. All right, now if we work backwards, and I think I've already kind of highlighted this, the what if when it comes to one particular matchup. I don't know if there's any necessary that are crazy contentious for the ultimate layout of the finals. I mean, if the Giants get the win there, that changes things a little bit. The difference between 4th and 8th for the Giants versus 3rd and 7th for the Dogs. But the Dogs, can feel pretty confident they've secured everything at that particular stage, one way or the other. Pies and D's will have nothing to do with it. Yeah, that's all. I mean, if the Bombers get an upset, it does nothing apparently. Going backwards to round 23 here. Again, if the Bombers do something, the Swans only need to lose one game at this point to forfeit top spot if the Lions continue to do what they've been doing. So that is certainly a fascinating one in terms of where those which teams have to deal with what is quite likely to be Brisbane and Sydney in the first 2 rounds of the finals. That matchup, again, depending on what happens at Energy Stadium here in round 23, that could have a bit of a bearing, and you can see the shape of the ladder changing a little bit as a result. Cats slipping from 5th to 6th, depending on the winner. Nothing else there that's really contentious. So now let's go back to this coming round, which I think is the round that really sets up what the final 2 weeks could be. Specifically, Cats and Dockers. And again, if we see what happens there, the Cats as high as 3rd, if we can bank that win and then continue on our merry way against the Saints and the Eagles in the final 2. That really shows in terms of the Cats' chances for a double chance. This matchup against the Dockers this week is enormous. So, I'm watching with bated breath to see what happens with Sam De Koning's knee. There's a whole range of different variables in the mix with this week. Fascinated to see how it plays out. But you can see what happens if the Cats win that one. Carlton v Hawks, you can see the difference there as well. Oh, geez. Apparently, if that loss to Geelong combined with what else have I tipped? Okay, so I was comfortable with that. And okay, like if the Cats get the job done this week against the Dockers, suddenly the Dockers are in a really dangerous spot with some tough matchups. Again, the game against the Power here, and then the game against who they were going against the next week against the Giants. They've got a very, very difficult final 3 games. They need to get themselves up and about if they are to win to win a spot in the finals at this point. But yeah, I think this round 22 one for the Dockers, the Cats, the Giants, the Hawks, and the Blues. This is the big round. This is the one that could end your season potentially by just giving an edge to the victor. So we can see what happens. Freo falls out if the Hawks potentially get the chocolates, which is what I personally think might happen. The Blues look like they're on track to still hold their spot regardless, but it does change that face of the top 8. This is a really fascinating one, and it's certainly one of the most fascinating seasons I think we've ever seen. And stay tuned for another video if it's not already live on the channel, where I'm going to talk about what it means to be the grand final, like the Premier this season. But just the look of these finals, and if I skip ahead and I'm saying Cats win, I think that's pretty close to it. There's our first round of finals. Dogs and Swans right now, based on what just happened a couple of weeks ago. You go Dogs. You think, okay, Power and Hawks. You can't rule out the Hawks, but maybe the Power. Blues and Giants. The Blues are feeling like they're on their knees, but Tom De Koning is apparently on track to return for the first week of finals. So maybe. Cats and Lions, if I will explore both possibilities in a sec. I'll go biased initially, and then we'll go unbiased and maybe tip the opposition in a sec. But, we can look ahead there and we go, okay, so we're talking about Swans and Power. We know what just happened, but this one's in Sydney. Maybe that helps a little bit. Doesn't make up 114 points or whatever it was. But maybe we go Swans. Maybe we go Lions. Did I say they were both Oh, yeah, that's right, the hypothetical. Then you go, okay, Cats and Swans. Melbourne, I don't know. We've got a prelim final loss. We've got some history against the Swans more recently. That's good news. We're talking about a Cats and Dogs grand final. Of course, the Cats win. But, there's so much that can change even based on that first week. If the Cats lose, there's a distinct possibility we go out in straight sets because the Carlton matchup is not good for us. But, we look on there and suddenly you're talking about a Cats and Dogs prelim. That's exciting. There's some history of those matchups too. But that's exciting. As is the other one with Sydney and the Lions. This is a huge, huge final series. Cats, Lions, Cats, Premiers. Anyway, I'm not really genuinely tipping the finals at the moment because there's just so many crazy outcomes that can stem from one single win or loss in this coming round alone. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. What does the final 8 look like? Are there any matchups, any wins and losses that you think kind of differ to what I've got? And I'll quickly skim through to make sure I've got it the way I want it. I'm going to go with my gut feel and say that we've got a sneaky chance this week and might actually pinch it. They're all okay in my eyes. We'll double check the next round. That's all okay. And then the final round with time still pending. Again, ridiculous AFL sorted out. I'm satisfied with all that. So that is my projected top 8 as things stand. Big, big swing based on what happens between the Cats and the Dockers this week. But it seems like as Cats fans, we can be confident we're going to hold on to a spot. That's a good start. All right. Everyone watching, thank you very, very much for sticking around and checking this out as I ruminate, as I ponder, as I bumble my way through this process. Hopefully, we can get the chocolates this week against Freo. Hopefully, that sets us up for the rest of the finals. Good luck to all teams, though. This is a really crazy season. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Go check out the Hoops Crew on Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to all of our stuff for free for the first week, and then for the cost of one coffee for the entire month. One coffee, not per day, one coffee. You'll get a whole bunch of exclusives as well, stuff that is only there on the Patreon feed, stuff that is early access. There's a whole range of cool things you can get there. Go check all of that out. You can find me at Paul James Games on socials, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. I even, well, I don't frequent it, but I'm on it. There's a whole bunch of platforms. Go check them out. Paul James Games is where you'll find me there. Otherwise, remain Geelong strong. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you later.